When hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. Release restraint level 0. Hey kids, wanna see a dead body?
Hi guys, this is the Void of the Ravenclaw. Welcome back to another fan fiction story. If you like this type of content, smash the like button and subscribe for future updates that I do post on my community tab frequently. Now, this is The Son of Brainiac, Part 7. Let's continue where we last left off in our story. The Mark I finally arrived on the 3rd level of the hotel. Scanning both sides of the hallway, the Mark I detected several life signatures scattered all around on this floor. The robotic killing machine walked down the hallway. Suddenly it stopped, detecting life signatures on the other side of the wall. The Mark I bladed tail begins to hover up and point towards the wall. Then the metal tail suddenly plunged itself, piercing into the wall. Piercing into a wall, piercing one of the villains in the heart on the other side. The Mark I slowly pulled its tail out of the small hole it made with his bladed tail. As you can see, blood dripping from its metal tail. That's the blade is attached to on the tip of his tail. The Mark I continued walking through the hallway, occasionally looking to the left and right. The Mark I stopped, then scanned the entire level, getting to locations, every life signature. It immediately locked onto each life signature as a singular crimson eye began to glow as several beams of energy were shot out of his eyes and travel around the hallways as the beams of energy pierced through the chest of the villains on this floor, one after another, until all life signature was no longer detected on this floor. As the Mark I continued on his way towards the top level to the 4th floor. What you just witnessed, my villain comrades, was the Mark I auto-locking laser fire mode. The Mark I is able to lock on any life signature in its radius, as you saw for yourself by that beam of energy traveling through the hallways, neutralizing all targets. Now the beams that the Mark I used earlier on a previous floor is a very, very high cadence beam that shoots out of a cannon that's behind the main head of my creation that I had installed. The Mark I is indeed powerful with his weapons. The lock-on function is a powerful tool, but it would be unwise to use it rapidly. For safety precaution, it's only allowed to use that specific function after a single use. There is a 30-second cool-off phase. Now, let's continue watching. The operation looks like... Continue watching the operation. It looks like he's ready to move on to the next floor. I have a question, Deku. As impressive this Mark 1 you created is, I'm guessing it has a weakness. Excellent inquiry, Shigaraki. It does have a weakness. If you could overpower the energy shield, with someone with a superior super strength quirk, it is possible to overpower the shield generator that I installed in the Mark 1. Getting past the shield is one thing, but fighting the Mark 1 without a shield is another story entirely. The Mark 1 is a dangerous mechanical killing machine. But at the end of the day, it's still a prototype. As the scene was cut back to the Mark 1. The Mark 1 is just exiting, I'm having a hard time speaking today, but let's continue. Just exiting the basically the stairway, giving the Mark 1 access to the 4th floor of the hotel. Immediately entering the 4th floor, the Mark 1 instantly was faced with heavy resistance. Unlike the villains on the lower levels, the villains on the 4th floor had time to make a strategy plan and took out several experimental energy weapons that they got their hands on from the black market. As beams of energy hit the Mark 1 energy shield repeatedly, the energy shield at 98%, estimated threat level 0. The meatbags pose no threat, proceeding to eliminate targets with extreme prejudice. The Mark 1 uses speed and flexibility to dodge several beams of energy coming from the energy weapons. When the Mark 1 got close enough, he cut one of the villains in half, then proceed to invade either laser fire or several fire and electric quirks being fired upon the Mark 1. The Mark 1 continued to dodge and weave. When he passed one of the villains, by running past him, he plunged his metal tail, piercing through the villain's chest, going right through its heart, killing the man instantly. While dodging the rest of the villains, the Mark 1 activated his auto-locking function and shut out several beams of energy, killing everyone in the room instantly. Shigaraki turned to Deku. Does that thing have an artificial intelligence? The Mark 1 did call those villains meatbags. Deku sighed to himself. The Mark 1 has a very unique artificial intelligence. Indeed, the Mark 1 has a... You were correct, Shigaraki. Like I said, he does have a artificial intelligence. Not to the point where the Mark 1 becomes sentient. Enough to be effective in battle. Unfortunately, it has a habit of calling, well, humans, meatbags. It's a very amusing tick that the Mark I developed when I was creating his artificial intelligence. The Mark I immediately began to scan the complete fourth floor of the hotel, getting quite a lot of life signatures scattered all around the fourth floor. Unfortunately, the Mark I can't use its targeting beam weaponry. It's currently in the process of cooling down from previous use. The Mark I begins to walk out of the lobby for the fourth floor and begin to walk down the hallway and begin to hunt to eliminate all life signatures on this floor. It decided to go after the stragglers and leaving the large group of life signatures in one of the larger rooms on the fourth floor for last. It didn't take the machine very long to hunt down and kill one villain after another. Through the entire fourth floor, leaving one room untouched. As you could see a villain running with an expression of pure terror, running down the hallway in a panic. The Mark I is phasing through the rooms while following its prey that's running down the hallway. As the Mark I is phasing through the rooms on the opposite side of the wall. Each time when the villain tried to run, the Mark I would plunge its metal-bladed tail right through the wall, piercing the villain, managing to injure the villain's leg. That only made the villain panic even further, as the villain is dragging his right leg, as blood trail could be seen down the hallway. Before the villain could get any further, the Mark I phased right through the wall and wrapped its metal-bladed tail around the man's neck as the robot lifted up the man in the middle of the air. I finally caught you, meatbag. Why are you doing this, you bucket of bolts? It's quite simple, meatbag. My master has deemed you and the rest of the meatbags to be no longer useful, obsolete. You can go fuck yourself, bucket of bolts, and your master. Singular robotic eye narrowed as the Mark I squeezed its tail around the man's neck. You dare insult my master? He's a superior being compared to you, meatbag. You don't even have the honor to even gaze upon his presence. You made a grave error in insulting my master. For that heinous crime, your death will be slow and painful. I'm gonna take my sweet time with you, meatbag. I'm going to highly enjoy taking you apart piece by piece. Ripping off your limbs one by one. Mark I begins to wave his tail back and forth between the two walls, slamming the villain in the process. That currently still has the Mark I's tail wrapped around its neck. He kept slamming him into the walls of the hallway until the human started to cough up blood. The Mark I left the bruised and battered villain, battered and broken, as the villain begins to cough up blood, the Mark 1 immediately begins to emanate black electricity traveling through his tail, making the villain scream out in pain as he's being electrocuted. The Mark 1 begins to loosen its tail grip around the man's neck as the villain drops to the floor. Then the robot begins to place its foot over the man's left leg and increase the pressure on his foot, crushing the man's bone in his leg. In response, the villain screams out in pain once again. The Mark 1 stomp on the villain's head, crushing its brain as blood and brain matter begins to splatter all over the wall of the hallway. The killing machine continued on his hunt, eventually finishing off the rest of the stragglers. The Mark 1 begins to head towards the last room, where the remaining life signatures are currently located. The killing machine finally arrives at the door, where there are several villains waiting for its arrival. The Mark 1 extended one of its hands towards the door and shot out a very small condensed sound wave, shattering the wooden door in a million pieces of splinters. The moment the Mark 1 entered the room, he was immediately assaulted by gunfire. The Mark 1 scanned the room, not bothered by their attacks. It analyzed all the villains that is firing upon him. Begins to analyze all the villains that are firing upon him. The Mark 1 deemed them not a threat, but the leader of these meatbags could pose a threat to him. The Mark 1 has already detected the leader of this villain group, Cork, is a impressive base strength quirk. When the quirk is activated, the user's quirk will turn one of the user's limbs and coat the skin with some sort of unknown metal. Once contact is made by one of the limbs that's been coated with his quirk, it will store up kinetic energy. Once that kinetic energy is full, that same energy can be released to cause some serious damage in several different ways, either through a beam from a palm or a mouth, or with physical contact by one of his limbs hitting the target and releasing the kinetic energy through a punch or kick. Hold your fire, men. Are you fucking serious? This is what been massacring all my men? A fucking walking toaster? A very advanced walking toaster, but a walking toaster nevertheless. Would advise you to watch your words, meatbag. Look at that, boys. A walking, talking toaster. The Mark 1 was about to initiate the first move until he got a communication from its creator. The Mark 1 singular robotic eye lens began to glow as a holographic image of Deku appeared right in front of the remaining villains of this half-destroyed villain group. So you're the bastard who's responsible for this. I am. Nothing personal. It's just business. Having another villain group come into power is something I cannot ignore. I can't having you stir up the balance. So I decided I would get rid of you before you become a problem. bastard, I'm gonna kill you. Gonna mount your fucking head on my wall. Deku raised his eyebrow at the man. You kill me? That would be hilarious if it wasn't so sad. But your abilities are quite interesting. Mark 1. Kill everyone else in the room besides him. As Deku pointed his holographic finger at the leader of the group of villains. I want you to bring him back alive for testing. Once you're done here, return back to base. I believe you displayed enough. I want to kill the last target personally. Understood, Master. As the Mark 1 instantly began to go after the grunts, each time gunfire would be fired upon the Mark 1, a energy shield would appear and nullify their attack. The Mark 1 uses metal tail to pierce through villains' chests, killing them instantly, and using his bladed weaponry to cut down any villains in his weapon range with his sort of meat cleavers that you see in the picture. And all 6 arms. Several leaping villains ready to unleash their corpse falling upon the Mark 1. One simple maneuver as the Mark 1 maneuver around their attacks instantly hit one of the villains in the air with his tail, knocking the villain out of the window to fall all the way down to his death. The Mark 1 shot several beams of energy, hitting everyone in the room except for the villain leader. The villain leader watched the rest of his men get brutally killed. The moment the last of his crew was killed, he bolted forward, activating his quirk. As his entire forearm got coated in some unknown metal, and immediately swung towards the Mark 1, only to be met with a energy shield that shocked the villain, as several bolts of electricity shoot through the villain's body. The villain immediately got some distance. That's one of his major flaws of his quirk. It's very acceptable to electric-based attacks. Weakness required. Another approach is necessary. The Mark 1 cuts its distance instantly and begin to repeatedly plunge its metal tail that is currently being electrified by black electricity at the villain. The Mark 1 threw out a kick, hitting the villain in the stomach as he goes skidding backwards. The villain leader was relieved that he managed to coat the part of his stomach. He knew he was lucky this time around. The likelihood of him succeeding again, he just can't protect his body with his metal coated arm still activated. Coating 2 different body parts at the same time is very taxing and it's hard to concentrate. He's always had a powerful quirk, very versatile. He had no interest in being a hero. So he chose the road of becoming a villain. It's a lot more fun. Everything was going well until this walking and talking toaster ruined everything. So naturally, the villain was pissed, in charge once again, Unfortunately for the villain, each time he threw out a strike, that same energy shield would appear, tanking the hit, tanking the hit, instead of preventing him from making actual damage, making the villain very irritated. But at the same time, he's storing up kinetic energy for use later, in case he needs it. With each strike he makes, he was surprised that he's able to store kinetic energy just by hitting the condensed energy shield. He continued to hit the shield one after another. And with the super strength portion of his quirk, he can see damage cracking a little bit from the energy shield. So he's not worried about getting through the shield. He just needs to push on a little more pressure to get past his shield. He's already making progress. The Mark I saw the villain charging once again. It simply dodged out of the way and landed a solid hit with its metal fist, as another metal fist made contact, as another fist made contact once again to the villain's face. As the killing machine continued to make contact with his metal fist, eventually heading into the ribs of the villain, making the villain cough up spit. As he slammed its fist into the chest of the villain, making the villain go flying backwards, hitting the wall. The Mark I did not waste any time and shot out a beam of energy out of his robotic lens as the beam fly towards the downed villain. The villain noticed it at the last second and rolled out of the way as the beam went through the wall, making a large hole. Holy shit, goddamn walking toaster. It definitely packs a punch, as the villain's still coughing up blood. It's a good thing that I came prepared. As the villain tossed a flashbang, the moment it went off, he went out the hole of the wall and scaled down the wall of the building until he got to the street level and began to run through several alleyways to escape. Curator, the target has invaded my sensory. He's out of range. Orders. Yet again, a holographic image of Deku appeared through the lens of the Mark I. It can't be helped. Return back to the base. I'll deal with him later. Understood, Creator. As the Mark I turned itself invisible and jumped through the hole of the wall and began to make his way out of the city. Once it got into the forest, it immediately teleported back to the laboratory, into his designated area. What do you think? Impressive, Deku. The Mark I is still in the prototype stage. I made 5 of the same models without the artificial intelligence. They're not ready for combat, nor is the Mark I that you just saw tonight. I only wanted to display my progress so far. How long will you think it will take to get them ready? Not sure at this current moment. They'll definitely need to be upgraded. Something like that can't be rushed. I'll give you a progress report at the end of the month. Will that be efficient enough for you, Shigaraki? Very well, Deku. I'm not going to pretend to know the process of creating such killing machines. As long as you get results, that's all I care about. Very well, Shigaraki. I have some business to take care of. Contact me once again if you need my services. Deku opened a digital portal. As the portal completely disappeared, the moment Deku walked through it, finding himself in the alleyway, outside of the villain zone, onto the public street, Deku immediately turned himself invisible when he exits the alleyway, just in case he gets noticed. After all, the heroes are fully aware of his appearance. Best not to bring himself unnecessary attention. After finally arriving to the headquarters of the safety committee once again, I never thought I would have to come back here, as Deku is currently on top of a building, staring upon the safety committee headquarters. Security has only increased since his first visit to the headquarters. Deku just calmly walked off the roof and made his way to the main entrance. With him being invisible, no one even noticed him, as he made his way into the compound. Seeing several safety committee military personnel going about their day or night. Technically nighttime right now. The safety committee, the director of the safety committee, Lee, is currently in his office doing some last minute paperwork before he can go home for the day. He can detect someone is in his office besides himself and his hidden safety committee agents. He continued doing his paperwork like he doesn't notice the other presence, and slowly pull out his hidden pistol that's underneath his desk. Lee calmly gathered all of the documents and placed them in a folder, and placed the papers inside the folder, and placed the folder itself on the side of his desk. Then immediately aimed his pistol with his opposite hand. Lee shot a round out of his gun to see his bullet hit something invisible, as the bullet was bent on impact and fell to the ground harmlessly. Lee calmly readjusted his glasses. I know you're there. Whatever method you're using for your stealth is meaningless now. I'm quite impressed you managed to get this far, whoever you are. Deku canceled out his invisibility ability and revealed himself to Lee, the director of the safety committee. Impressive instincts for a pencil pusher. I would ask you why you're here, but we both know why you're here. After all, this is not the first time you've broken into my headquarters. Isn't that right, Deku? Ah, yes, you mean that one time. It was nothing personal. It was just business. As you probably already concluded, I'm here for one simple reason: to kill you. Can't have you interfering in my plans. Nothing personal. But I can't have you in the safety committee getting in my way. So the League of Villains finally deemed me a threat. So the League's finally taking action. I'm very aware of your alliance with the League of Villains. considering your impressive display at the USJ and your other activities that has gone unnoticed since your arrival in my city. We've been fully aware of your presence here. Sadly, I won't be dying here today. Kill him. Deku noticed several safety committee agents decked in all pitch black stealth armor. The armor itself is pitch black. The agents' faces are covered by some sort of helmet, most likely for night vision. All the agents were wearing black helmets. These agents have stealth technology. Nothing compared to what Deku could produce, but it's still impressive for their level of technology and development at this current time. As the safety committee agents surround Deku on all sides, Deku moved so fast and ripped out all of their hearts, making after images of himself. When he stopped moving, all the safety committee agents fall to the ground dead, all at once. You were saying, Director? As all the hearts drop from his hands. Seeing that, Lee immediately opened fire, only for Deku to catch each of the bullets in his hand. When Lee finally stopped firing, Deku released the bullets from his hands as they dropped harmlessly to the ground. Lee took evasive actions as Deku kept a few bullets in his hand and began to flick them towards Lee. Interesting. You're not your average pencil pusher. I hate people with your personality the most. But to answer your question, yes, you don't come to rise to my station without proving yourself, either in a business meeting or on the field of battle. You definitely are a thorn in our side that's been active for far too long. Breaking into my headquarters, stealing sensitive information, killing one of our best agents. We are very aware that you are the one who killed Pro Hero Hawks. I find it complexing you would take his body. I have no doubt for some sinister reason. But regardless, I need to remove you. You pose too much of a threat to the safety committee. I can't allow the League to have someone of your capabilities at their disposal under their banner. But I have no intention of dirtying my hands personally. I'm above that. In simple terms, you're beneath me. You're not worthy for me to use my quirk. Lee activated a switch underneath his desk as part of the floor opened up to reveal a snarling Nomu. You honestly think the League was the only one capable of creating these monsters? Do your job, monster. Kill him. As the snarling Nomu rushed towards Deku. Once the creature got in striking range, it lashed out violently, only for Deku to slap the creature's hand away on every attempt. Nomu started to throw rapid punches at Deku. Deku, in response, caught every punch with the palm of his hand as he's slapping his hand away. Nomu was able to land a solid hit across Deku's face, to Lee's shock. His head didn't even move. It looked like he didn't even felt anything from that blow that the Nomu just received, or just dished out. Is that your maximum, creature? How disappointing. The League clearly can create superior Nomu. Deku slammed his knee into the Nomu's stomach, making a knee imprint from the Nomu's back. Before the Nomu could go flying backwards from the force of the knee attack, Deku stopped the creature from moving by grabbing onto his skull and repeatedly slamming the creature into the ground. His eyes just widen, witnessing this villain manhandle one of their Nomus that the safety committee constructed. After getting their hands on some of research notes from Dr. Hujiko, who currently works for the League of Villains, that the safety committee is fully aware of, they just can't find him. Deku slammed his foot into the creature's back and proceed to put on pressure by digging his foot into the monster's back. Deku raised his right arm in the air as a green crystal begins to appear all around his right arm, moving up towards his hand as a kryptonite crystal. Well, basically, it's basically kryptonite. But anyways, let's continue. As a kryptonite crystal-like scythe form could be seen. Without any hesitation, he swung down, chopping the head off of the Nomu. With his opposite hand, he ignited green fire, incinerating the Nomu's body, leaving only ash, as Deku crushed the severed head of the Nomu by stomping his foot upon it, crushing the skull as bones and brain matter begins to spray around the area of the office. What the hell are you? Lee is frantically backing up, still aiming his pistol at Deku. Deku proceeded to cackle, only if you knew. Deku shot out several kryptonite spikes into each shoulder of Lee, piercing right through his body, pinning Lee to the wall. You humans, you arrogant species, especially you, Director, you don't realize you're out of your depth. I have bigger ambitions than playing hero and villain. You see, because you're gonna die here, I'm willing to reveal some things about me and my plans. You see, human. You see, you humans are only one insignificant species on a insignificant planet in an insignificant solar system. The facts are quite simple. I'm just superior to you in your entire species. You're nothing but lower life forms to me. Deku plunged another kryptonite spike into Lee's body. Allow me to properly introduce myself. You might be a lower life form, but introductions are important. You see, the mantle of Deku is not my true name. I only using that alias why I'm on this insignificant planet. My true name is Brainiac 1. Don't worry, you won't be alone for long. As Deku has a devilish grin under his face guard mask and ram his kryptonite scythe into Lee's chest, piercing right through his heart. Deku pulled out his scythe out of the dead body as blood begins to splatter onto the ground and leaving him to hang on the wall. As the kryptonite scythe begins to break into green dust, Deku doesn't care if he leaves evidence of his kryptonite. His body organically can generate the kryptonite, and the kryptonite itself has no effect on him. He's immune to all kryptonite. Deku is unaware he has one weakness, and that's magic. He hasn't experienced facing a foe that has capabilities to use magic yet, so he's unaware of that weakness he has. There's no Kryptonians on this planet besides himself, even though he's not full Kryptonian. He's a jumble of different DNA mixed in one. After all, he is a biological android. So leaving a couple of kryptonite spikes won't cause him any harm. Deku opened the portal back and went back to his laboratory in Mount Fuji. When Deku got back to his laboratory, he was met with a very curious blonde, fiddling with different devices in his lab. I wouldn't press that if I were you, as he approached the blonde from behind. It was already too late. Toga accidentally pressed one of the buttons. The small mechanical device gave her a nice shock. She couldn't help but let out a yeek sound as Toga carefully put the device back, afraid it will shock her again. Toga spun around to face Deku. According to what Deku said, you must be the boss man. A pleasure to meet you. I'm Himiko Toga, at your service. As Toga does a little curtsy with her skirt. Toga is wearing a schoolgirl uniform. Deku turned around to see Dabi walking into the lab with Twice and Mr. Compress. Excellent work, Dabi. Thanks, boss. What's now? What's next? We let things play out for now. We'll play nice with the League until I give the command. The League is still unaware of my true intentions, and they're nowhere aware what's going to happen when I give the order, when I finally initiate my true plan. Everyone here okay? What's going to happen when I finally initiate my plan? Everyone knows except Toga. What kind of plan, boss man? It's quite simple, Toga. Once I gathered enough information on my research, I will be initiating a worldwide invasion. Many people will die. I won't stop there. I will drain the natural resources of this planet. Then when I'm done, I will eradicate the planet itself and move on to my main objection. Let me get this straight. You said everyone's going to die. Correct. As Toga's cheerful expression turned into a serious one. Good. You hope you killed a lot of them. No one looked out for me. Why should I care? I like staying alive, so I'll stick with you, boss. Very well, Toga. Does anyone else have any issue with the plan? When Deku did not hear anything, or any challenges to his order. Continue with the next agenda of the day. Davi here will show you around the living quarters. Pick whatever room you want. Food has already been restocked on that floor in the kitchen. You won't have to worry about food for a while. I have things to take care of. Deku immediately went back to work, fiddling with some ideas to how to upgrade the Mark I using holographic images of the Mark I. When Toga entered the laboratory, her eyes sparkled when she saw what Deku was doing. She instantly was by his side, amazed by the holographic image of the sinister-looking robot. So cool. Deku cackled at the comment. Would you like to see it, Toga? Toga tilted her head to the side. You mean this cool holographic image is based off something actually existing? Precisely. Toga begins to hop up and down in pure excitement, like a child that just entered a candy store. I want to see. Well then, follow me, Toga. Toga immediately walked beside Deku with childlike wonder in her eyes. Deku guided Toga to the Mark I workshop, where the Mark I is currently located at. Instantly, when Toga saw the Mark I, she rushed towards it and started to walk around it, poking at the robotic metal of its frame with her finger. What's wrong with it? It's currently offline. Toga had a frown on her face as she pouted, like she was denied a toy that she really wanted. Becky just ruffled her hair. Don't worry, you'll get a chance to see it in action soon enough. You promise? Promise, Toga. Follow me to the laboratory. For what, sir? I need a sample of your blood to see if I can make any improvements on your quirk. I'm what you call a scientist. I've been working on learning about quirks and improving them. You don't know what my quirk is? I thought Dobby would have already told you. It never came up, and I didn't want to hear it anyways. I would rather see for myself. I have no doubt your abilities are impressive. If you were approached by Dobby. They got to the lab as Toga hopped on a stool. As Deku took some samples of her blood, then stored it away in a vial that was labeled Toga. As he placed the sample of blood inside the cold storage. It's a small cold storage, but there's a lot of samples inside. Can I ask you a question, boss? Deku will be fine, Toga. Toga gave Deku a small smile. Are you some sort of alien? You did mention it, some sort of invasion. I'm something like that. I might look human, but that's where our similarity ends. I have a feeling we'll be working together for a while. I'm what you call a biological android. I won't bore you with all the scientific lingo. Well, I take it you don't like humans very much. It's not like I hate your species. I'm just not too impressed. But I found your species to be interesting nonetheless. How they organically were able to acquire superpowers genetically through evolution. It's quite fascinating. But beyond that, I have no love for your species. Or hate. But you don't need to worry. As long as you're an ally. The fate of this world and the fate of the people on this planet will not be yours. But you don't seem to mind too much by your body language. I don't mind at all, as Toga's serious face once again reappeared. Let's just say I didn't have a good life. And I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. Very well, enough said. I understand. Wait, if you're... Sorry, I keep messing up. Let's continue. If you're like an alien, do you have like a cool spaceship? That I do. My spaceship, as you so elegantly said, is just outside of your atmosphere, behind the moon. That's its current location. You'll get your chance to see it. Toga said goodbye and skipped out of the laboratory to explore the headquarters, seeing all the strange kind of robots going about their operations, not even noticing her. I had a feeling you would get along with that crazy blonde. She's slowly growing on me. What about the others? They're on board with everything. They're tired how society has mistreated them and making their lives miserable. But I do have a favor to ask, boss. Very well. Proceed. What is this favor of yours, Dobby? There's a woman in a mental hospital named Rei Todoroki. I do not want any harm to come to her. Understood. We'll retrieve this Rei Todoroki before I implement my invasion on this planet. Thanks, boss. No problem, Dobby. You seem to care about this woman. I will even relocate her somewhere peaceful. Thanks again, man. I know you didn't have to. Don't worry about it. It's only natural for a son to protect his mother. Dobby's eyes widened. How did you know? It wasn't hard to figure out, my friend. It makes sense why you're after Endeavor. I've heard some nasty rumors about that one. I'll even transport the rest of your family as well, when the time comes. Dobby shook his head. I shouldn't be surprised you know who I really am. Anyways, Thanks again. My brother will need some convincing. I have no doubt. He's a stubborn type, both of them. I can't really relate to you. So far to my knowledge, I am the only child. So how long are we going to work with the League? Not sure yet, but when I see a opportunity to remove them from the board, I will act. But until then, I'll play along. For now. I've already started downloading everything from this internet of yours into my mother computer in my mothership. Once the download is completed, we can finally initiate the first stage of my plan. Until then, we'll play along. But when my invasion does happen, I will be shrinking several cities before I destroy the planet, after I drain its natural resources. Wait, you can shrink actual cities? It's a requirement, considering who my father is. I already acquired a shrunken city from a previous planet that I've conquered. That's where we're going to cut it. Hope you guys have a good day and night, and judge my time soon, and I'll catch you in the next video.